Hi guys, this is chapter 29 of the Stowaway. It's called The New Prisoner. Parvo was a sorry sight. He'd eaten one live crab that had made him vomit, and he'd had no water in 24 hours. His lips were swollen and bloody. As he sat on the sandbar, he kept his face down. Billy stood over him with the paddle, and Carlito held the oar. "One move and we'll smash you," said little Edward with his arms folded with satisfaction. Waves sloshed against the Tamal as Carlito and Billy paddled toward Santa Cruz Island. Parvo sat in the middle, his hands tied behind him with ropes of seaweed. His face was sunburned. When the boys gave him sips of water from an abalone shell, he began to cry. "More, laddies," he whispered, "please." "Later," said Carlito. Turning forward and storing the jug in front of him, the island looked close enough to touch, but the current and wind seemed to push them page 108, backward with every stroke. Their arms ached, they were lightheaded from lack of food, and their eyes hurt from squinting into the sun. At least the others are safe, thought Carlito. Isabella and Maria were caring for Mr. Bumpus. Little Edward would help bring food up from the tide pools and also gather some of the edible plants the girls showed him. Prickly pear cactus, sea fig, and sage. They had found pelican and gull nest, but no eggs. The lamb with its thick wool coat would provide fresh water each morning. Not a lot, but it would help them stay alive. Before leaving, Carlito had reached in the parrot's cage and stroked his beautiful blue head. "Please eat, Mr. Biscuit. Monty would want you to eat. Be a good boy, please." One striped eye opened. "I'll take care of Mr. Biscuit," said little Edward. "Don't worry." Mr. Bumpus gathered them for prayer. "Dear Lord, watch over these brave boys. We ask for your mercy on all of us. Amen." The waves grew higher with the afternoon wind, and water seeped into the bottom of the Tomal. Carlito wanted to cry with frustration. Instead of getting closer to the island, they were drifting into the channel. 3 porpoises swam alongside as if to encourage them. In the distance, an orca leapt above the swells and with a twist of its black and white body splashed down. It was swimming behind a pod of whales. Carlito wished one of these strong animals could row them ashore. He turned around. Billy looked exhausted. His patch had slipped off and now hung around his neck, and his shirt was soaked from spray. "Parvo," Carlito said in a hoarse voice, "we need your help. Will you take one of the oars?" Parvo appeared to be sleeping. "Mr. Parvo!" yelled Carlito. "The sooner you help, the sooner we'll get to fresh water, please." Mr. Parvo opened his eyes. There was no longer any hatred. His swollen tongue moved over his lips. "I'll help you," he whispered. Billy took in his oar and picked up a broken abalone he'd brought as a weapon. He began sawing at the seaweed wrapped around Parvo's wrist. While Parvo rubbed the circulation back into his fingers, Billy held the sharp-edged shell to the man's neck. Too parched to speak, Billy nicked the skin, drawing blood, which he showed to Parvo. The pirate nodded, then took up the oar.